Thousands of Nigerians have been protesting since August 1st against Tinubu's painful economic reforms that have seen a partial end to petrol and electricity subsidies, currency devaluation and inflation touching 3-decade high. In some northern states like Borno, Kaduna, Kano and Katsina, protesters were seen waving Russian flags, with some calling for a military takeover. According to them, we are waving the Russian flags because Tinubu's government is not listening to us. He's not listening to anybody. But Russia president always supports African nations' development, unlike other nations. My people, no be small thing, Nigeria is on fire now. And this action of some northern protesters have been generating reactions within and outside Nigeria. I want you to take a look at this video.
We begin with the focus on Nigeria. President Bola Tinubu and the Nigerian military are concerned over the increasing Russian influence in the country as Moscow's clout grows in West Africa. In the latest, Nigeria's military chief held security talks with President Tinubu after Russian flags were waved and slogans favoring Russian President Putin were raised at anti-government protests in Nigeria's northern states. Nigeria's military chief has termed the act treasonous to the country's sovereignty.
We don't have a leader, we are the leaders. Now we don't have a leader, someone is asking who gave us this flag. We sewed it ourselves. We don't like Tinubu, Tinubu must go, we want soldiers.
All of us have seen it, where some foreign flags have been flown within the sovereignty of Nigeria, and that is totally unacceptable. We are warning in clear terms, and the president has also said we should convey this, that we will not accept anybody, any individual flying any foreign flag in Nigeria. That is treasonable offense, and it will be viewed and treated as such. For those of them flying flags, if you see a lot of them are kids being pushed to do that. We are following up with those ones that are sponsoring them, those that are pushing them, because you know the flags were also made. We identified those areas and we're going to take serious action against that.
Now, Nigeria has arrested some tailors who allegedly made the Russian flags and also who the authorities call sponsors of foreign flags. Nigeria's Department of State Services is investigating the matter. It did not say how many tailors or sponsors had been detained. Russian embassy in Nigeria has already distanced itself from allegations that it is influencing the demonstrations in Nigeria. It denied responsibility, saying that the flags are personal choices of protesters and do not reflect any official position or policy of the Russian government. Pro-Russian sentiments have been growing in parts of West Africa. The junta-ruled states in the region, Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger, have already opened doors to Moscow for security partnership, severing ties with the West. Now the Nigerian government fears this influence in the region could spread in the country amid rising discontent among the people. On the 1st of August, Nigerian citizens launched the 10-day End Bad Governance protest against economic hardship and systematic corruption. These protests have mostly been led by the youth. The protesters have been calling on President Bola Tinubu to step down. The cost of living crisis in the West African country has been fueled by surging inflation, which is at a 28-year high. President Tinubu's economic policies have also pushed the local currency to record lows. According to rights groups, the protests have left at least 13 people dead nationwide. But the Nigerian police insist that only 7 died. Over 700 people, including journalists, have been arrested by the Nigerian military, and a curfew has been declared in at least 6 states in North Nigeria after reports of looting and violence. Nigerian security forces have been accused of using excessive force in the protests, and this seems to have dampened the protests. Few protesters showed up to mark the 6th day of protest. The protesters blamed this on fear of policemen who have outnumbered civilians.
People are afraid. They are afraid of the military personnel seen on ground. I guess a lot of protesters are still hanging out here. But me, I'm out here, I'm standing here, I'm here to pray. It's my right. It's my civic right. I'm here. And I've not ever received one dividend of democracy ever since I've gotten to know myself as a man in this country. And it's not done.
The police are not protecting us. The police are against us. Today I came to this place and I heard that the police is chasing people away from the protest ground. These are people that are trying to protect that are meant to protect our rights. Why are they chasing us away? We are not violent. This protest has been going on since Wednesday and it has been peaceful. Please, let everybody come outside. We are here. The police is more than even the masses that are around.
Despite President Tinubu's call for dialogue and suspension of the protests, Nigerians say he failed to address any of their demands. So they vow to continue protesting. But now the Nigerian government and the military stare at a bigger potential threat of Russian influence. Now, for more on this, we have with us Jugu, a professor at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka, and he joins us live from Nsukka in Nigeria. Thank you for being with us, Professor. I'll jump right in. Nigeria's military chief held a security meeting with President Bola Tinubu after the Russian flags were waved at the protests. What details do you have about this meeting and also about the so-called sponsors who were involved in promoting the Russian flags during the demonstrations?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. I'll be lying to you if I say I have details of the security meeting that the president held with his security chiefs. Some of the briefs will be state secrets that they will guard. But what looks concerning to the president, if you ask me, is that the Russia influence of Russia lurking somewhere in the nearby country, Niger. I don't know how much you follow that story. Niger Republic and Mali and Burkina Faso. When they revolted, there was a coup which was revolt against the influence of the French in those countries, and because they were resisting, and France was mobilizing. Sponsoring all sorts of counter coups and mobilizing to stage a comeback. It was Russia that these countries began to come and help them push back against the French. So it looks like the success of that coup, that the coup leaders have not been replaced, is largely due to the influence of USSR, of Russia in that place. So, and it looks like the people who are waving the flags are coming members of a particular section of Nigeria that borders Niger. From northern Nigeria, then you go to Niger Republic. From there, you step into other countries like Libya, and so it looks like they are drawing some vicarious inspiration from what has happened in that country. And because the news coming out of Niger and those areas look very cheering, since they regained their freedom and pushed back against the French with the influence of Russia, it looks like the fortunes of those countries are beginning to turn around. And it looks like that's the kind of dream that these people are trying to pass across with the flag. Since the Russian authorities have denied this, it will be difficult for anyone to claim that Russia has a hand in this. But what I think the message they want to pass, what this says is two things. Two things. One is people are trying to draw inspiration from what Russia has done in neighboring countries. And secondly, to let Tinubu, the president, know that Nigeria is not alone. If he doesn't act carefully, that it is possible for what happened in those countries to happen in Nigeria, real or imagined. But this flag is just to pass that message, that things have consequences. That's the way I read it.
Right. And Professor, Bola Tinubu's administration had already, before the protest began, said that they were concerned about outside influence in these protests. Does this occurrence of the Russian flags and the slogans being chanted give credibility to these claims, or is it a distraction as the protesters are saying that Tinubu is not listening to their demands?
Yeah, if you ask me, it is difficult to bet because Nigeria has surprised me in many ways. So it's difficult to bet on anything. But I think that to a very large extent, this is diversionary, right? Reference to that to the organization and mobilization that has led to this protest is referring to it as externally influenced, externally driven, is diversionary, because the demands of the people who are protesting are very clear. They are not demanding anything out of this world. It's just that people are hungry. Inflation started skyrocketed in Nigeria after Tinubu took over and they pronounced the removal of the fuel subsidy. And then the cost of fuel rose from about 300 naira, which is, if you like, about 30 cents in today's dollar value, and then to something like in the neighborhood of about 70 cents or thereabouts. And because everything rises and falls on the cost of fuel, right? Everything, generators that people use to run their cottage industries, to produce small stuff, transportation that moves, goods around the country, everything tripled and quadrupled in cost. And because of that, the cost of food began to rise. Coupled with other security concerns, farmers have been waylaid and killed in their numbers in different sections of Nigeria where the food supply comes from, right? By the so-called herdsmen and people. There's some marauding bandits who are just going around killing farmers and chasing them away from their farms. Have conspired with the cost of transportation to shoot the prices of goods, of basic things that people need, over the roof. And so people, because of the difficulty in surviving this trend of things, it was easy to mobilize people to come out to protest. I don't think that external influence has any hand in this. It is the policies that Tinubu has championed, the policies that he pronounced immediately he took over, and the fact that they keep living large. The president still maintains a retinue of jets and private jets for the presidential fleet, and the motorcade of the president is longer than 1,000 meters. The vice president's building was reconstructed with an amount that is over $10 million. And all sorts of opulence that people have noticed. In the context of the rising hunger, rising inflation, rising unemployment. So that's why it was possible for people to be mobilized against all odds, because Nigerians have come to fear the security forces so much that calling people out to protest is like a death sentence. But that people were able to go for broke and to come out to state it is something. Sorry, go on.
And Professor, just quickly before we let you go, the protesters have pushed forward with this End Bad Governance demonstration. It's planned until the 10th of August. How will the Tinubu government be affected by these protests going forward in terms of the broader socio-economic challenges facing Nigeria as you've laid out there?
Yeah, I think that the Tinubu government will find it very difficult to wrap their heads around what is going on and to know how to come out of this. What has happened is that even the speech that Tinubu made doesn't show that he's running a government peopled by individuals that will sit down to think of the broader socio-economic and implications of what is going on, So what I think might begin to happen is that the protests will escalate because people have been killed in parts of the country where people do not fear death. In the north of Nigeria, who have been socialized, a lot of them are Muslims who it's easy to mobilize them for mass action. So the cost of food, the cost of things will continue to increase. And I don't see Tinubu and his team coming up with any policy reactions that will be able to address these issues, because what I have heard from his speech and from pronouncement of members of his government is that they are trying to control the symptoms of this protest. Instead of facing what led to the protest in the first place. I don't see any improvement. I don't see anything happening.
Absolutely.
It's difficult to predict how Nigeria will go from here.
Right. Professor, thank you very much for being with us on First Post Africa and for your valued insights and analysis on the latest coming out of Nigeria.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine.
For watching. Bye.